Nope. Nope, Josh. Nope. I, there's certain players in certain formats and certain leagues. I'm just going to have trouble moving them. In a 12 team start 12, start 2 tight end, 2.0 tight end premium, Brock Bowers is probably not leaving my roster. So, Josh, even if you're rebuilding, contending, I don't really care. If you're getting Brock Bowers in a second in this format, are you sending away Dak Prescott, Zach Ertz, Carson Steel, and that 2025 third round pick?
Ty, it's a very enticing offer, but you know what? For the tight end one in Dynasty, give me Brock Bowers all day, baby. Let's go.
Let's go. Let's talk about it.
You got barbecue back there, and you didn't invite me. Hurt my feelings.
Yeah, Josh, here we go, baby. Welcome on into another edition of the DD Fantasy Football Trade Show. It's me, your guy, Ty DeClaire at Ty DeClaire 44. I'm joined today by Josh McAtee at Josh McAtee on X. Josh, I don't know if the people know, we're in for a treat tonight. So thank you for coming on. Tell the people just a little bit about yourself and what we're going to get into tonight.
Well, I appreciate it, Ty. Thanks for inviting me onto the show. I've been a member of DD Fantasy for a little over a year now, but I've been playing Dynasty and high stakes and best ball, for many years at this point in time. So excited to come onto the show, talk some trades, help some people out, getting through this injury-riddled 2 weeks of the NFL season. Hopefully work on buying some players that can help turn some teams around and set us up for success, not just for this year, but hopefully in the future as well, too.
All right. It is the time to pivot. We got new information coming in. Yeah, like what we said a couple weeks ago is probably going to change, right? So we got to stay up to date with what is happening right here, right now in today's fantasy game. But if you want to stay on top of this fantasy game and really just have all the resources and people and conversation and numbers at your fingertips, DD Fantasy Football, number one place to be. Head over to patreon.com/allgas, join the crew, get in the Discord, talk with Josh about Trinity, because I swear he will talk with you about Trinity all damn day. If you want to break down, yards per route run, I'm sure Josh will do that too. But if you want to know where Josh's favorites on his browser are, head on over to ddfantasyfootball.com. Check out what Josh is checking out. Try to keep up with him. Josh, do you think that people should just hit the like, hit subscribe, just get that out of the way? Just, I don't want that on their mind while they're watching the show. Just get that out of the way now. Just hit that now. Like I said, we appreciate it, of course. But Josh, let's hop on in to the old Discord. And we got our boy Danny Too Good taking up Brock Bowers in a second. Now, he did give a little bit of context. So it's a 12-team start, 12 Superflex. It's a six-point passing touchdown, -2 for interceptions. It's a start 2 tight end. It's a 2.0 tight end premium. And it's a 0.5 for first downs. This guy had Tua and Bryce as the quarterback 2 and 3. They're still trying to contend, but Danny is 0 and 4, so he is pulling that ripcord. And again, I like Dak, especially in a 6-point passing touchdown. We talked about Dak with Dan last show, and Dak is going to score a lot of points. But when we're just playing format in a start 2 tight end, 2.0 tight end premium, especially with a 0.5 first down bonus, I really have a hard time giving up Brock Bowers in any case, and I'm going to go out of my way to try to get the tight end one, as you so aptly said. And Josh, if you're looking at this, and we like to construct our teams and play a little bit loose sometimes. Zach Ertz, he fits the format too, but it's just a different story when you're talking Brock Bowers and Zach Ertz now.
I agree. I mean, you got somebody that's on the tail end of their career. You never know when the last hurrah may be for Zach Ertz. But he is in a good spot, with Washington. I think he's right around second in the team in targets. Obviously, they're going to be low A-dot work, but anything in Washington's low A-dot work with the horizontal raid that Cliff is putting together out there. So, but I think this is probably a deal that is a win-win for both sides. If Danny's definitely going after this 0-4 start, really focusing on acquiring good assets plus some capital that he can mess around with and give somebody some players they can utilize. Steel is one that should be utilized over the next few weeks while Pacheco is out. Dak and Ertz definitely being utilized and give them some capital if they're going to make another pivot throughout the year. So this is probably a good deal on both sides of the coin. Based on where the team's direction is. So I think it's a really a win-win. And I think for me, a lot of times you want to, have a good league where you can have win-win opportunities and not really, always spend time in the bucket of trying to, get one over on somebody to have the health of the league, be good and for the team's directions to do what they need to do. So this is a good deal, I think, across the board for both sides, and hopefully puts both teams in the direction they want.
Yeah, for sure. And again, we're in the point scoring season and Pacheco's out, so we got to adjust. And Carson Steel is the one in the Chiefs offense. And if you're listening to this, it is Tuesday as we record. So things will probably change and we'll flip 100%, by the time the weekend comes and this drops. But for right now, Kareem Hunt, he did sign, right? He signed today, I believe, Josh?
Yeah, he signed to the practice squad today. Yep.
Signed to the practice squad. So you got Steel, you got P. Ryan, you have Hunt now. So I bet it'll just be an amalgamation of those three guys, and it's probably going to be a bit of a hot hand approach. But I mean, Carson still had the opportunity, and it just sounds like the coaching staff wants more out of him. So we'll see how that plays out. But if we're playing kind of the cross-off game, so start 2 tight ends, 2.0 tight end premium, Zach Ertz in that second. I feel like I'm still going to take the second. So Zach Ertz and Carson Steel for a second in this format, Josh, is that a fair cross-off?
I think so. Yeah, I think so. Based on what the players are doing this year for your team, I think that's a fair price to send across to get those players.
Okay. And then basically you have Brock Bowers for Dak in a third. And I mean, if you told me that before the season, I'd be like, wow, that sounds like a good price for Dak. All right, and it's a 12-team league. Yeah.
If we are going to do a startup, I think it's going to be very interesting in a league like this where Brock Bowers is going to go. Where is that inflection point in the quarterbacks within the first 2 rounds of the startup draft? When do you decide to pull the trigger on old Brock Bowers? That is going to be fun in startup season, right? I know this is not startup season does not equal trade value, right, on a market, but if you just fast forward this, into the off season and you say, Brock Bowers ends up as tight end 1, he gets 15 or 16 points per game, and he's getting, he has 27 targets per route run on the season so far. He's 25% of the target share on the offense. He is, going to be the lead guy if he continues this pace that he's on right now. I'd have to imagine he's going to be, easily one that's going to be fighting into that range come the offseason.
Yeah, because I mean, I'm just thinking, where did Laporta go? Like in regular startups, even he was already 3rd round. So in a start 2 tight end 2.0 premium, you have to expect some of those tight ends are at least in the 2nd round of startups, right? And I imagine that Brock Bowers would be the first name off the board. I have a mid-season startup coming up in a couple weeks, and I fully anticipate to just see absolute insanity in that deal. But so Dak, Prescott, a third, Bowers. Again, in the format, I think I'm just going to roll Bowers because, I've been on a big tight end mountain here in this offseason as well, more so in best ball than in lineup. But in a format like this, if I'm constructed well at tight end and I can pivot an advantage there, it does almost make me feel like my flex needs less insulation week over week because I can either plug that tight end in, or if I can rely on a tight end advantage, it helps me just to feel a little bit better if my super flex is more crusty. You know what I'm saying, Josh? For sure.
Yep. Yeah. I think, especially with the quarterback flattening out with scoring, we've been on a downward trajectory when it comes to passing touchdowns and ADOT work over the past. I think it started really kind of in 21 and perpetuated in the past few years here. And you're really seeing that manifest this year as passing production. It's kind of been muted a little bit because you would expect even a guy like Dak to have a little bit more points to start the year, but the touchdowns really haven't been there. But they haven't been there for a lot of people and a lot of teams. And so, he's locked in with CD, in Dallas for the next several years. And so you feel very comfortable with his situation. They're always going to be a good offense. And so he's just a comfortable quarterback that can give you really back end one production and sometimes can compete into that top 5 on a weekly basis that can really return value. So there's a lot of security, on that side of things for you to build your roster around, and then get, way more crusty in some of these other areas.
For sure. And I'm just to even just talk fantasy football in general. I know in week 1, the entire NFL's like number of offensive plays ran was down from previous years. Did that continue in week 2 as well?
It did. Yeah. Play volume was down. Passing touchdowns were down again, comparatively lower year over year in week 2. And so it is something, one, we need touchdowns, right? If we need touchdowns to really lift some of our fantasy value on our players and our teams. But if we're talking about, this being something that's going to be a bit before it kind of settles out, you do have to have somebody that's kind of locked in that can actually make that happen, and an offense that can do it. And he's got one of the few, that can go deliver that on a weekly basis.
Yeah, absolutely. We're not going to, belabor this point too long, because I think we have another Bowers deal in here somewhere. But in a league like this, like when I'm thinking pure flexibility and what I can do with an asset too, I mean, Brock Bowers is as good as gold in here. So I'm absolutely fine getting into a Bowers. Give me a second and let's kick off that rebuild, Danny. So good work. Good one to get us started off. Let's just jump on up to old Broncos 23. And this is one that I found really interesting. I have a little bit more data pulled for us on this one, Josh. A little bit of war for the people. But this is a 12-team start 10 Superflex PPR, 2.5 PPR for tight ends. So this owner somewhat punted the startup, accumulated 5 2025 first, including their own, building blocks of Kyler, Marvin Harrison Jr., Kincaid, pretty much standard scoring aside from the tight end premium there. And this first in the deal, Josh, guaranteed top 2, and it belongs to VC 15. Okay, so lefty golfer got into Brock Bowers and a 2.5 tight end premium, and they sent away what should be a top 2 pick in 2025, a 25 second, and a 25 third. I've broken this thing down in the chat, and we'll get into it, but I want to know your thoughts just off the bat is, if you're sending back an owner there first, which is clearly going to be very, very early, how do you typically even approach those kind of talks? And what do you think about this deal?
I think I want Brock Bowers in this deal, regardless of where that first is at, because again, you fast forward it to rookie draft season, and somebody's holding the 102. Right. And you're staring at, Ted or Sanders, or, it's probably Ted or a quarterback that's up there is probably what you're taking. Right. And none of those guys, like if you have Bowers and you're trying to send that 102 and it's a quarterback or Ted, then they're going to be like, no, you got to send me more than that. You got to send me like 2 firsts in order to get Brock Bowers. So I would prefer the Brock Bowers sign in this situation. So give me the player that to me is just the best tight end that we're going to be seeing here for quite a while. I'm gonna ride with Bowers in this situation. There are a few players right now where I would like actively want to send my first away for that I don't want to hold, based on the interest level that's going to be coming, with these picks in the off season. He's one of them. Like no question. I think I've said it a few times in the chat when people are like, "Oh, should I send this for Bowers?" And I'm like, "Yes, I have lots of Bowers, and I am not trading him away for most of my teams." People have sent me deals, and I'm just like, "You're not even like we're not even close." This will be an overpay to get Brock Bowers off of my rosters. So I in a 2.5, give me Brock Bowers. Give me the guy that's going to get this target volume. And this reception volume throughout the field.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you talk about if we were back in the 2024 draft, Brock Bowers has to be going, 102, 103, depending on how you feel Daniels versus Bowers or, wherever you were on that. Like in this format, he has to be up there. And I'm like you, Brock Bowers is my highest exposed to player in Dynasty. Yes. But anyway, let me just scroll down a touch here. Let me pull this up. So this is the war for this particular league here, Josh. So we've seen a lot of WAR. This is a 3-year average WAR. So this is 2021, 2022, and 2023. So it's not overly biased one year over another. Just help you to get an idea of how maybe you want to construct teams, what areas in scoring you want to try to attack. And the tight end line is green here. And look at how steep, look at how high it spikes. And I mean, where's the zero line here? What, up to tight end 35 is above replacement, right? So when I see that, there's a couple things. One, I definitely want an elite guy. And if I can find the right combination of elite guys, I can play a lot of hoarding and keep away, but also really extend my advantage at tight end. But also, I feel like I don't have to do that, knowing how many tight ends can be viable week over week and just knowing the position in general, like we've seen, right? Tight end, not scoring how we really anticipated or hoped, over the first couple of weeks here. So, I mean, Josh, when you see this, like, how do you attack this in a league with just such a tight end advantage?
So your tight end one is outscoring Josh Allen, right? Like you just put the names to it. I know we don't want to put names to war, but like sometimes you just got to put it out there just to understand. Everybody knows that Josh Allen has been like the quarterback one for years in just like every format you have. But in some like this, the number one tight end can do it. And this guy, potentially Brock Bowers, right, is the one that is going to compete on that level to where the Kelsey and the Andrews, tight end one seasons have been. He and McBride are going to got to be the closest ones that can make that happen this year. And so to get that advantage locked in allows you to just, like you said, have some flexibility to put the back into your roster with Ertz, Hunter Henry, the upside of the likelies, play around with the Schoonmakers. They're going to pop in from injuries because just like with running back, injuries happen here, and you pop another guy in, and next thing you know, he's getting 4 targets a game and getting some play action looks down at the goal line. So I think the flexibility of being able to bounce around outside of having your hammer at tight end in a league like this just makes you as a dynasty manager feel less stressed about how you're going to attack that position, knowing what an advantage you have over your league. And even the scoring, while for the position is down, when you look at what Bowers is doing on a per game basis right now, I've got like a half PPR set up in front of me, and not even this scoring here. He's already scoring 19 points a game in a 1.5 tight end premium. So, I mean, we're talking about a guy who can do it, and he hasn't even scored a touchdown yet. So, we're so close to having a guy that can really ascend to the top of this position.
Shout out to John Bauer. He called it in 2022. And Brock Bowers already was the tight end one back then. Yeah. Like when I break this down, the only kind of sticking point that I wanted to review, right, is if you have the first of someone who is clearly trying to rebuild and reboot, and you have that pick, I think like with that amount of leverage and just the amount of really just the leverage you have in that situation, the price is a difference maker. That's it, point blank. If you want this, it's going to take a difference maker. And you got one in Brock Bowers. So I think that checks the box. Seconds and thirds in a 12 by 10 league, that gets deals done, that patches holes. So I'm happy to throw in a second and a third if the deal makes sense for me. My only hesitation is that with the leverage you did have, did you even need to send in the second and the third with that? I'm pulling at straws here. And really, even if you overpaid in the right format to do it, and you did it for the right player. So I have no qualms with it. But like Josh, if you like, I know it doesn't matter where it is in this particular trade, but if you have the first of someone who is trying to rebuild, you got to use that leverage somehow, right?
I think you can, but maybe I'm not as an edge grinder as much in trades sometimes because I like to just get deals done and versus haggling over things sometimes. And so, if I sent this over, wanting to just do the first for hours, knowing it was going to be the 102 and getting it back, and he's like, I'm really kind of rebuilding. I need some extra, capital to go with it. I'm not going to put up too much of a fight because I know what I'm getting. Like, right. I'm not gonna let the second and the third, deter the prize that I'm going after here in this situation. Just because, if this was, David Njoku or, Mark Andrews or, something like that. I mean, there's just no comparison right now between these players. I would definitely not spend any additional. I'd be like, no, I'm not giving anything else, for those guys. So I would really, it's really because it's Bowers in itself to me, and what he's been able to showcase so far in a short amount of time. I know I'm sharing a lot of confidence, but like, you just don't see this. Like, this just doesn't happen in 2 games as a rookie to do what he's doing right now. So I think it's just such a unicorn kind of situation to me that I'm definitely pushing my chips in, and I'm just not going to maybe spend the additional time, to really sweat that out to myself. So hopefully if you're doing something like this, he sent his third, but he sent a different player's second. So if this is a tell if somebody's a little bit of a grinder because he's got 3 different people, he's got 2 other league mates picks in there. If he's acquired this capital because he has some extra to go spend it to go do something with it, hopefully he can continue that grinding mentality and getting some of this back, by acquiring players, like a Yoshavas and trying to get a third right back for him and stuff like that. And so if this guy's a kind of a grinder, I think he'll be able to recoup his capital, through some of that process, hopefully, and some more process deals and get some of that back if needed.
You can always grind more edges, but just simplicity and less stress usually make things go around. So I am absolutely fine with it. Good work, Broncos 23. I said, I like me some Bowers, so get me into that Bowers. All right, here we go. We do not have any settings, so we're going to say a 12 team start 11, Josh, Superflex, PPR. One side of the docket gets Marvin Harrison. Maserati Marv again. It's not Mazda Marv, as old coach Jeremiah told us. On the other side, though, sending away DK Metcalf and Michael Pittman. Michael Pittman is a victim of the Colts offense at this point because he's not Antoine Pierce or Ashton Doolin or A.D. Mitchell. I still like Pittman, but early returns not what you hoped. And you have DK Metcalf, who him and JSN really had a consolidated target share this week as well. So is this in a 12 by 11, Josh? Is the tier up worth it, or is the process to take the 2 players? How do you approach this kind of a deal?
Well, as a noted Pittman bear, I will gladly send away my Pittman and a Metcalf for Harrison. I understand why both sides want to do the deal here. If the other side is like short on receivers, and we're in a if we're in a 10 team, like it to me, it's just Harrison, right? But if it's anything outside of a 10, I can really understand why you would want to do this. You have to be short on players on your roster if you're an 11 or a 12 and you're doing this deal, because you're sending away, one of the best receivers to come into the game at his rookie year. Had a poor week 1, a fantastic week 2. I'm not ready to start saying Maserati Marv yet because, I don't know if he topped 20 miles an hour as the Twitter, as X has been like trying to call out. They're saying, wait a minute, he got downfield, but maybe not as fast as we would like to have done that. But as a, Ohio State's homer, I would also love to have more of Marv on my team. So I think this is a fair deal. Either side, you can see where either team may want to do that to bolster their receiver room and their situation. Yeah.
I mean, Mazda, Miata, Marv, I don't care what you want to call it, right? Again, I think you said it great. In a 10-team league, in a shallower league, it's just Marv. It's just Marv, right? Just do what I can to get into Marv. As you get into the start 12s, the start 13s, especially in best ball changes the math for me a bit there. So we'll jump into best ball in a second, but I mean, I agree. Like if you just took over an orphan team that's very asset starved and you just need to split the baby and figure things out, like you could do a lot worse than get into DK Metcalf and Michael Pittman. It does feel like if you get into Pittman and Metcalf, you're probably looking for players to slot into your lineup. So yeah, like I can see how this deal came about. Most times though, just let me get into Marv. But Josh, in best ball, we play in best ball a little bit, right? The 2-for-1, is that enough to move that Marv away, get into DK and Pittman?
I think so. If you look at the end of the year, Marv and Metcalf are probably scoring similar points, and it wouldn't be surprising at all to see Metcalf scoring more, than Marv on a weekly basis. And so I want as many bullets as I can firing, into my best ball lineup. I like to think actually, well, I'm playing Dynasty best ball really for the first time with intention this year. And I think about Dynasty best ball more as a floor game than I do as a ceiling game. Whereas in lineup, I think about it really as a ceiling game. And so while, Pittman is not having, I think, the start of the year that I think everybody would like, his utilization is still fairly strong within that offense. We just don't have the volume right now that I think is what we would like to see to put up the points that we want to see from him. But that's okay. If you're getting him and he comes out, maybe with not as strong as a floor this year, but he does have some ceiling outcomes for you. You have a very strong floor and ceiling between Metcalf and him. And so I think in a best ball roster, I would take the Metcalf and the Pittman side. I think that's going to bolster my team to where I can utilize both of those players more than just the singular player name in Marvin Harrison.
I would do the same. I agree. Best ball is a lot about stacking your assets, not stacking like your team, but like the quarterback and the tight end from the same team, but stacking up just your depth, your construction, and building that up to where it's undeniable week over week that you're winning. Getting a 2-for-1 is inherently valuable there. And I mean, again, DK Metcalf at worst, 80% of Marv on a week, like really at worst. And then you're giving me the Pittman, which again, he's gonna have weeks. Yeah, I wish week 1 and week 2 looked better, but I'll just bet that Pittman's gonna have weeks. So in a best ball, it's the Metcalf side. But in any kind of shallow lineup, hell, really even out to like at least start 11, I'm just gonna take Marv here.
Yeah, and in so far this season, Metcalf has more targets per route run. He has a greater target share of the offense. Marv has a better ADOT, right? He's got a couple of deep shots this past game, but
just one
PPR, yeah, PPR points. He's scoring more than Marv so far through 2 weeks. He's got a better Trinity, score. So, this is definitely one where like just the name value alone, people are like, oh no, give me the longevity of Marv. Well,
right.
I'll take the points plus the extra player in best ball with Metcalf and Pittman. And be damned with the names in this situation because Metcalf is just fine. It's accomplishing exactly what you need, in your best ball roster.
And it's not even like you get into assets that's like a Cooper Kupp or a Godwin, like guys who are on like the falling knife end of the asset range, right? Like Metcalf and Pittman, you can still move them, you can still do things with them. So I am absolutely fine getting into that in best ball. But yep, J Pero CCO, I don't know how to say that, but if you're on the Marv side for your lineup, let's get it. Let's add some context next time, and we can really give you the deep down answer. Okay, it's the Carson Steel time of the show here, Josh. We got Big Diaz, 12 by 10. Big Diaz, I think he had a Carson Steel in every single league he's in, so he's in liquidation mode now. A 2025 fourth, or Carson Steel. I'm going to assume that Carson Steel is pulling thirds at this point, just given kind of the uncertainty. But is the move just to try to get anything you can for him, Josh, and just get something for Steel, or are you holding out for a little bit of a better return?
I'm either using him or I'm selling him. It's one of the two things with him right now. So if you shopped him around and the best you could do is a fourth, and then you didn't really have anything else to move, that would be the only thing in here. Say, okay, well, if all the best I could do is a fourth, he should probably get a third at this point. It's a point per carry, point per first down. He's going to get, he is going to get work, right? It's going to get him and P. Ryan some work, and it's going to be kind of split up. So I don't think he's getting no 40-yard bonuses that he's got highlighted here. I don't think we're getting that from Carson Steel, right? Yeah. But I think at least, you probably get a third, and so if you wanted to hold out for the third, then go just move a different running back and then slot him in a lineup league. So I think that's, what I'm doing with a player like this is shipping him out or making sure he's in my lineup. It's one of the two, because now is the time to do something with him. And you got to take action right now if you've got him.
Yeah. We're not going to take too long on this. I know that Diaz has another steal. I just know Diaz has another steal deal somewhere in here, but I agree that is the case for running back. Are you in my lineup and producing for me right now? Otherwise, can I move you? I don't want to just eat depth and points at running back and not utilize that. I don't need to have my week 16 figured out at running back either, right? Just let me go right now. What am I doing in week 3? And that's how I'm playing running back. So you said it perfectly. If Steele's coming in my lineup, cool, I'll keep him. If he's not, I'll try to move him. If I can move someone else to move Steele in, let's do it, right? But hopefully, old War Dog here gets to get a couple starts out of Steele.
Well, hopefully War Dog is actually realizing the war of Steele by getting him, right? So we don't want you to be leaking war, all right? Leaking war on your bench is not good. So if he was leaking war on your boat, we got rid of him, right? And hopefully War Dog is capitalizing on it inside of his roster.
You got it. 10-team league, start 12, 1.5 tight end premium with juice scoring and a point per first down. 10-team league, Josh, and we got a quarterback, Jacoby Brissett, and a third being moved for a 2027 second-round pick. Josh, I don't know if you have seen 2027 on a calendar yet. I can tell you if certainly Shane has not, so not sure if it's actually a real year yet. But in a 10-team league, start 12, just give me the second. I don't need to have that quarterback 34 or whatever he is at this point and a third. Just give me the second. I don't really care what year. And I'm going to use that second to patch up something when I need to versus holding onto a quarterback in a 10-team league. Do you see that differently?
I don't see this differently. In my real profession, I deal in like 10-year agreements. So I certainly have looked at a calendar and seen this far out.
Okay.
However,
here we go.
We're not.
It's a real year. We've confirmed it on this show. You can go forward knowing that 2027, real year.
It's a real year. It's a real year. But inside of the fantasy world, it is not a real year. It doesn't exist. And so this is a Fugazi year and a pick. We have no idea if this will actually become to reality. And so, I mean, if you were desperate and you were like, I gotta, I guess, get rid of Brissett. I don't know. I have a couple of Brissetts in lineup, and I have been trying to shop him around to these players, to these teams that have lost some quarterbacks, and nobody's really kind of biting. I've tried this, but not on a 27. I've tried to send third and Brissett to get a second. It ain't happening yet. So maybe, he just got to that point where he was just like, F it, let's just get this guy off my roster and get something. But I personally have not pulled that trigger, and I've been trying to do this kind of deal with these injuries this past week.
I, too, have been trying to move that Brissett, and I, too, have been hitting a steel wall. In a 10-team league as well, I bet it's doubly so harder to try to move that Brissett. But, yeah, maybe we're just at the point where, we've had Love go down, we've had Tua go down. Like, there should be opportunity there. Bryce got benched, right? So there should be an owner that wants that, but maybe we're just not at the point where people are desperate enough to pay for that Brissett yet. And really, if Brissett is not in my lineup, and if Brissett is my starting quarterback in a start 10 or a 10-team league, I don't feel great. But unless I'm really utilizing him, he can go. I just don't think I've ever seen a second being moved with Brissett on the other side. So I don't really care what year it is. Just give me the second.
Yeah, he is definitely going to be, very, very, very hard to move in just like a 25-second or even 26-second right now. He's a ticking clock. And unless somebody's can use him right now, and also feels really good about their team, like it's just so hard, to move him right now. You've really got to package him up into things right now. We'll see how the waiver run goes this week for a lot of different teams. We'll see, I've got several teams where I've got like 10 quarterbacks and Brissett's in that group. I'm trying to squeeze the market. I've got Huntley and Dalton on teams, thankfully. And so I'm just trying to squeeze the market to force somebody, to make a decision with me between one of these quarterbacks that are going to start playing and to get some capital out of it. It's the whole point of doing this whole strategy in hoarding these quarterbacks and trying to squeeze your league down to do it. Maybe they'll rebel against you and you won't be able to actualize it, but I think we'll definitely have to get creative over this week and the next couple weeks as the attrition continues to wane. And hopefully this hoarding of the backup quarterbacks or any quarterback on a roster value is something we can internalize and turn into some capital.
This is what I would love to see it back, and when we hit bye weeks and again more attrition happens, just to see if anything changes, or we just see people be more and more aggressive just to get the starts right now, no matter what they look like. So I'm interested to see that, but if it's a 12-team league, like I might even feel a little bit differently, right? But just 10-team league, just give me the second.
Yeah.
Okay, dokie. Let's scroll. We got a robbery here. I have my paragraph, book, novel. Here we go. Diaz has hit us with a couple here. So 12 team. Oh my God. All the boosted scoring. It's a Diaz league. So whatever you can boost, it's boosted. 2025 second and $15 a fab for Deontay Johnson. As someone who bought a lot of Deontay Johnson this offseason, as someone who drafted a lot of Deontay Johnson in Underdog, not great, Bob, early on. And now we're relying on the red rifle to turn the ship around. So here we go, Dalton. Yeah, here we go. But 25 seconds, some fab. It's a lineup league, it looks like. So, I'd love that fab even more in best ball. But Deontay Johnson, in and out for a second, Josh. Are you going to use him? Like, what does your roster say? It's probably roster dependent, right?
Scroll up to those bonuses right there. Let's just cross. All right. So do we think Deontay can get a 40-yard TD bonus, a 15? No. He's not tapping into these bonuses that are there. So certainly not getting 200 rushing yards. Like, he's just not realizing any of this stuff, whether it's Dalton or Bryce in this offense. It's going to be really hard for him to actualize some of this extra point value that's on the team. So give me the second. Give me something else I can go mess around with to either bolster the roster into some different areas. And if you're making this kind of deal with Diaz on your team, hopefully you have somebody else that you're putting into that spot that's going to return same or equal value, and that's why you did it. Or you're shopping around and trying to find some replaceability from that standpoint. So unfortunately, Deontay is fairly replaceable with his production right now. And so I think it's going to be something where, I would gladly take a second for Deontay in a few spots. I have him in lineup. I have not been able to swing a second back in return. So I think this is a good one to get the capital back.
I think our boy Ruben was moving Deontay Johnson for fourths or just anything, like get me out. So got a second and some fab. Good work, Diaz. I agree. He's not reaching these bonuses, not the format. And I don't think you have to, I wish I can get a second for Deontay. I don't know if I can really extract that, but if you can, it's a good deal. 12 teams start 10 Superflex PPR, no tight end premium. Diaz once again, just getting the pick, sending away that Skyler Thompson for a 2026 third. So I assume that Thompson's going to be the starter in Miami for at least this week. And we talked about it, the any quarterback on a 2-deep strategy. The whole goal is when these guys pop up and the opportunity comes up, you move them and just keep the ball rolling. Pick up another one, keep the squeeze, and keep going. 2026 third, though. Given what we know today, this is Tuesday. Given what we know today, is a 2026 third the price, or are you trying to be stingy, knowing what we know about Miami?
Oh, I'm perfectly fine sending the 26th third. It is a real year, so it is fine to send that to get back that 26th third. So And Thompson is just a ticking time bomb for how long he will be a quarterback for the Dolphins. It may not even happen this week. Like it may be Huntley. He may not even make it through the game. Like we will just see at this point in time. And so you went from nothing to acquire Thompson. Hopefully you didn't spend any real fab at all at the offseason or earlier in the year. And to be able to turn that into a third, that's just a beautiful return, in my opinion, to take something from nothing and turn it into that capital value. So yeah, I will gladly take the third back.
We'll give you a quick applause break there, Diaz. I think you did the work. And again, that's just a strat, right? You pick them up, move them when you can, pick up another one, and keep the ball rolling. So keep it rolling, Diaz. And we are going to keep rolling into a Shane deal. Old Shane, you got the sad Eagles logo up on the screen. It's a 12-team Superflex, start 10, PPR, and a .20 receiving first down bonus. Shane gets into Cortland Sutton, Rashid Rice at 2026 third and a 2027 third. So I guess Shane is believing that's a year now. Good for him. We'd like to see some growth out of Shane. He sends away Brian Thomas Jr., A.D. Mitchell, and a 2027 second. See, now I feel like this is like the Trinity trade to start talking about, right? Really get into that. So, we have Rashid Rice, who has emerged as a number one option in the Chiefs offense. It's what everyone has wanted someone to do in the Chiefs offense for a while. And, I trust the Trinity, and the Trinity tells me that he is the guy. Worthy can run fast and likely score on many plays, but it's going to be Rice from a volume perspective from what I've seen so far. So I am willing to, like I said, give the oomph behind Rashid Rice's name at this point. Even if he was a knucklehead in the offseason, hopefully he's not a knucklehead moving forward. Cortland Sutton, Denver offense. He should be the guy who gets the stuff in the offense, but it's Denver. So good luck knowing who to really choose or to feel good about that. On the other side, you have A.D. Mitchell, who it feels like he should have been the one to catch that Doolin touchdown, or, there's some unrealized air yards there for sure that hopefully do become realized at some point. And you have Brian Thomas Jr., my favorite rookie wide receiver right now, who I'm desperately trying to get into some Brian Thomas Jr. because I didn't do enough in the offseason to do it, Josh. That's my homework for myself next year is why didn't I get into Brian Thomas Jr. and how can I get into him more? So you're looking at this deal. We got 27 second, we got 2 thirds, but really it's about the wide receivers. So looking at this, how do you feel and how do you break this down?
I think this is a fun deal. I see why both sides wants to do it. Shane's clearly getting the side that's scoring the points this year. And so whereas, the other side is going with, the hiring capital with the singular second. And certainly with guys that you need to see a lot more from in their rookie year, things that are kind of fun from their profiles. But I think for me, I want to take the Rice and the Sutton side. I agree. Like the Broncos situation is not fun right now. It's hard to tell what the outcome is with Sutton. So you're really just kind of saying, Brian Thomas and Mitchell for Rice in this. Sutton in the second is there, and then the thirds are just kind of extra. We got with the Fugazi year in there, and then a 26, right? So, we just got some extra capital kind of put on top of it, and so. If I had a Brian Thomas and a Mitchell and I'm sending for Rice, that's really the center point of this deal. I'm sending Brian Thomas and Mitchell for Rice. I'm going to take the guy attached to Mahomes that's going to lead in targets, and it's going to get an extreme amount of volume, to be able to return, even though I really like Brian Thomas, and I think he's going to be, hopefully a player that ascends in both value and also from a production standpoint, in the NFL. I think I'm still want the Rice as the centerpiece of this deal.
Yeah, I'm pretty aligned with you there, but I do think you're right. This is a direction choosing type deal, right? Clearly Rice and Sutton are going to score the most points. A.D. Mitchell and Brian Thomas Jr., like they could have that upside, that long-term ability, like the ascension in value to come. You do get the pick upgrade, but I think one of these things is not like the other so far. And that's Rashid Rice. And this feels like a great time to pull up the old Trinity here, get it on the screen. Let me move it over here just a touch. Maybe not. Trying to get this thing around our big heads on here. There we go. So right up at the top here, Josh, guess who we have? Oh, Rashid Rice, 9-10 Trinity score on the year, 17 points per game. You got Brian Thomas, again, really nice, 7.24. I like that. Like, he's going to have weeks. He's going to boom. It's just about the offense, right? Like, can T-Law figure it out? He should at this point. He's got a big bag, so he can figure it out. But hopefully, Jacksonville can start looking good. But then you got that Cortland Sutton, 5.70 on the year so far. We'll see. But again, when I see these guys below the trend line, just kind of tells me what they're experiencing week over week. And AD Mitchell, the least on the chart here. But again, we know that those booms can come. And if they do come, they're probably going to be big plays. So if you're in a Diaz league with those big scoring bonuses, AD Mitchell should be an attractive option for you. But looking at this, Josh, anything stand out to you?
What's funny looking at this chart is you would say Rice has the better offense and the better quarterback. He's getting utilized the most, which is why he has the highest Trinity score. He's above the regression line, so he's outproducing his utilization. And both that comes from the way he's been utilized in the offense that he has. The other three have really subpar QB situations. Only one player is actually, meeting expectations from a fantasy scoring standpoint, and that's Brian Thomas. That is, to me, what kind of gives me confidence in Brian Thomas as a player in this league is you have one low volume so far from like the Jaguars in week 1. It was like 19 pass attempts. They increased their pass attempts in week 2, but it's been poor quarterback play and poor kind of play calling on the Jaguars. They are not clicking well, but somehow Brian Thomas is managing to be probably the best utilized in that offense, scoring a touchdown so far in week 1. And so that's a really good trend. But the other two, have passing situations that are not good right now. And they are well below the regression line. And so you also understand why people are, you see the flashes from AD, right? Like he should have got like 1 or 2 TDs in week 1, didn't get it, right? But the utilization itself is really below par right now with what we need. And in Sutton's, just an average, kind of producer for you at this point in time. And so I don't think he said if this was best ball or lineup. So I think that, having Sutton, if it's lineup, Sutton better be in the lineup, right? Otherwise, there's no point to having Sutton on your team. If he's not in your lineup, maybe it's just a little excess that you hopefully realize by making some other moves from here. So, but if it's lineup, it's 100% for me it's either way. It's the Rice Sutton side for the way that I like to play. But I gotta make sure Sutton's going into my lineup if I'm bringing him onto my roster. So
yeah. If I'm rebuilding, like there's worse returns than Brian Thomas Jr., AD Mitchell in a second for sure, especially if you're betting against Rice being able to stay out of his own way. Like if that's what the detractor is, okay. But I'll bet on the Rice side. Like I said, if I'm trading for Sutton's going to be in my lineup. He's not a bench stash. I'd rather bench stash AD Mitchell and wait for the rise there, right? So if I'm getting Sutton, I'm using Sutton. So if you're using Sutton, you're using Rice, you have those thirds to patch some holes, go get it, Shane. Mick Dillon, hey, you're probably on the rebuilder side, but I love me some Brian Thomas Jr. So hopefully Jacksonville can figure that out. You get some good weeks there, and AD becomes AD. Okay. There's one here I want to talk about. Old Klopp. So this
is hot. This is a hot deal right here.
On pole position, I was on the Dynasty Daddy trade database, and I talked about this deal because this one popped up in a 12-team start 11 Superflex PPR 0.5 tight end premium. I didn't know it was one of our guys that did it. All right, but M Shaked got into Nico Collins, and Klopp got into that man, Brock Bowers. I'm going to go out on a limb and say we've talked a lot about Brock Bowers this show. We haven't really touched so much on the Nico Collins, but I think everyone else in the fantasy space has. So Too long didn't read. Nico Collins, pretty freaking good, right? We're talking about trades between Nico and Chase, and like really what is the difference? So that should tell you exactly what kind of arena we're talking in. And I love me some Brock Bowers, but in a 1.5 tight end premium 12 team start 11 PPR league, I'm just going to lean the wide receiver. And Josh, you can probably speak to it much more eloquently than I can. In a format like that, the scoring distribution between wide receivers and tight ends generally will favor the wide receiver. There's positional advantages and however you want to kind of break that piece down. But looking at this in a league, a format like this, Nico Collins or Brock Bowers?
This is an interesting one. So I was trying to filter through a few different numbers here. So one of the things that I like to look at is expected points. What are they expected to receive based on their utilization within their systems or within their teams? And so Brock Bowers' expected point value in a 0.5 is actually higher than Nico right now. And so he's expected to earn more points based on his utilization. However, Nico's outscoring him right now because he has some efficiency into his game right now. So he's 8.8 over expected in his production based on what he's getting on the field right now. So this is like a very close deal. This is like coming down to like, what does your team really kind of need? I could go either way in this situation here. I don't think Nico is going to continue to score the level he's scoring right now because yes, we want volume and efficiency, right? That exists and we want that. But when it starts to ascend to a point where it's way above, a normal distribution for efficiency, it is going to kind of come down, which is why I like to look at expected points because it gives me some baseline for where they're going to be. You're not going to average, more than 8 expected points above where you're at today. That's just nobody holds that. Not even Jefferson, not even those guys don't do that. And so it is going to come back down a little bit, or maybe his expected points will go up based on his utilization. But to me, this is truly going to come down to what does my team need? Do I have excess at receiver that I need to turn into, the tight end one? Or do, I have a tight end, if I have McBride and Bowers or Laporta and Bowers, or if I have something where I'm trying to pivot out into something else, and if I want to use Bowers to do that, I could see the deal going that way. So to me, you could really kind of go either way based on your situation. I will stay a homer and I will still say Bowers because I still think in this 0.5 premium, I can get closer replaceable production to Nico based on what he is doing on the field than I can with Bowers if he's maintaining with where he's at right now, because he hasn't even reached his efficiency level yet. So
he hasn't even scored a touchdown yet, Josh.
Hasn't scored a touchdown. So, and he's still he's efficient and he's scoring above expected without even having the TD points inside of there. And so this is like just the archetype of tight end that I love that can ascend to that level of value. Also from a point side of things that can really separate yourself.
Yeah. I mean, Bowers, maybe he breaks the mold. Like maybe he just breaks, previous held opinions. The one detractor I can think of for Nico is if I had to bet, compared to someone like a Jamar Chase, I would bet that Nico Collins' offense, when it features Stephon Diggs, Tank Dell, Dalton Schultz, Joe Mixon, I will just bet that those players will have weeks and just maybe they just keep Nico just grounded just enough, right? Just to make that more even. And really, I learned something today, just learning about the expected points for Bowers, and even in a format like this, that he's even going to be scoring more. So if you're chasing the positional difference maker, I cannot blame you for getting into Bowers. If I'm playing general format and who do I think is going to score more points come week 17, I'm going to say Nico. I might be wrong, but I will bet Nico there. I think this is a really good deal. And like we see two market moving players being moved. So I agree at wide receiver, especially in a 12 team start 11, Josh. Like you said, there's many ways that you can approach wide receiver. There's not as many ways that you can approach tight end, especially in 2024. So if you have the McBrides, if you have the Bowers, gotta be hard to let him go. But if you're getting to a Nico Collins, that might be the ticket.
Yep.
And finally, we'll end on this one. So Klopp, after he got into Bowers, he sent away Joe Mixon and Alan Lazard for a 2026 first. 2026 real year. You get a first for a running back, which in general we love to see. And both of these assets, Joe Mixon and Alan Lazard, and a single injury could wipe away any kind of value to your roster.
I mean, this deal had to have gotten done before the injury, right? Like, there's no way you're sending this after the injury.
Afterwards, right?
Yeah. So this had to be like pregame. He screened it. If this is like screenshotted in the morning, maybe. This was
11 hours.
Yeah. So if this was taken, like, even if it was after the injury, like, kudos to getting that deal done. Somebody wasn't watching TV at that point in time. But yeah, I mean, anytime I can liquidate a replaceable running back who has no efficiency and is all volume based production, which in some leagues is valuable and it can be valuable, but give me the 26 first in return for Mixon. I can work other methods to find replaceable production, within what he's given me.
Yeah. I agree. Just let's just get the first. Yeah, it's 2026. You wish it was 25, sure, but again, both these dudes could fall off a cliff at any point. Now 12 by 11. I'll just take the first. Yeah, maybe Kerm 002. He tuned into TV just as Joe Mixon was doing the cuts on the sideline. He's like, oh, he's looking really spry. Like maybe
he's coming back in. He's coming back. He's fine, right?
Yeah. Exactly. Well, Josh, look, we have a Trinity report to get to, so let's wrap this show. So. A little blurry as well. So thank you, Josh, for coming on. Just incredible wealth of knowledge and the way that you break down things. It's digestible, and I can appreciate that. So let the people know where they can find you and really just anything you want to say. The floor is yours.
Well, I appreciate it, Ty. It's a lot of fun talking through these deals. As we went through everything, there's winners on both sides. And I think, to me, when I think about dynasty leagues that I play in, there's a way for both sides to kind of win on a trade. I know it's fun to try to, get one over on somebody, but that just doesn't happen as much anymore. Everybody has access, to tools and information to make educated decisions. And for the healthier league, it's good to see some of these deals go through where it does. You can see the reason why on either side is trying to make, the decision to do the deal that they're doing. So, appreciate everybody posting, the trades that they got done this week. Some real hot ones with Brock Bowers and some Nico deals that we've been talking about. Some grinder, trying to move those quarterbacks. So a lot of fun. And anytime anybody wants to talk about some trades or talk about, well, why do we think about this player as something that's either sustainable or can see an upward mobility in their production, come into the Discord, come into the Heisman tier. Come chat up with us and talk through this kind of decisions. So you can find me in there on a daily basis, going over fantasy football information within the DD Discord. And also on X, if you want to reach out as well. It's just my full name, Josh McAtee. Feel free to reach out there as well, and happy to talk through anything related to Dynasty or fantasy football in general.
Yeah, I will say you're a great follow on X too. You make me chuckle. So not just a one-trick pony. So thank you again, Josh. Everyone in the crowd, if you found this actionable, entertaining, somewhere in between, drop a like, drop a comment. Let us know what you think. What kind of moves are you going to be making this week as we head into week 3 of the NFL season? I can't believe we're saying that. I can't stress it enough. Patreon.com/ALLGAS. Get in the Discord. Get in the Heisman House. Get in voice chat. It's going to make you grow as a fantasy player. ddfantasyfootball.com for all the tools, Trinity, Tracker, War, everything we used on this show. You can hop on it right now and use it if you sign up. Underdog, get in there, get your special pick and up to $1,000 on the arm at sign up with code ALLGAS. Josh, we did it. Thank you so much for coming on. And to all the people out there, you take care. We out of this thing. Peace.